We carry so much with us and we forget the magic. As we forget the magic, our lives become lived for others. Our lives become lived for something that we never wanted them to be lived for. And we become deadened. You are the magic. And there's so much magic inside of you, asking to be released underneath the shame and the guilt and the fear of judgment that at any point you can just let go. You are part of an intricate web of all things. My darling, you do not have to be good. You do not have to crawl on your knees for hundreds of miles repenting. Let the soft animal of your body love what it loves.
But you're awakening already, right? It's already happening. That's why you're here and why you're listening.
Nothing is broken in your world. Nothing needs to be changed. Nothing needs to be different. And yet everything is constantly changing because it is the inevitable nature of that which is eternal.
What I've come to realize in this endless searching for answers is that there really are none.
If you spend your whole life trying to get your act together, then what do you have? You have an act, right? Instead of a life.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Figuring Shit Out. My name is Vanessa Fontana. I'm your host. And if you're new here, Figuring Shit Out is a space for brave, intentional living designed to help you courageously embrace what you have figured out, normalize and navigate conversations around what we haven't figured out, and to softly surrender to what we may never figure out. Welcome back. Thank you so much for listening. I'm so happy to have you. This is the last episode of the year, and I sit and record it alone in a big, beautiful house by a window where I'm watching the snow fall. Candles are lit behind me. Welcome to episode 113. This episode is titled, "Let the soft animal of your body love what it loves." And continuing this conversation that we started to have last week around rest, listening to ourselves, listening to the subtle cue of who we are underneath all of the pressure to be something else. The invitation for this episode today is that you open yourself up to a little bit of magic. You drop your shoulders, you unclench your jaw, and you sit and listen, absorb passively or actively to the message here today, which is releasing shame, releasing guilt, releasing judgment, releasing perception, and allowing yourself to let the soft animal of your body love what it loves. Before we get into it today, I have a small little request. If you love figuring shit out, or if you kind of like figuring shit out, if you love an episode or you love this episode, what will really help this podcast to be found by others is engaging with it. So that means following it on your preferred streaming platform. That means rating it 5 stars. And my favorite of them all, leaving a comment. If you felt inspired, if you felt resonant, please leave a comment. Let me know. Say hi. I love to see you guys here. I'm so grateful for this beautiful community that's on the other side of this microphone. Thank you for listening. Thank you for tuning in. And thank you for engaging with the podcast. It's the easiest form of energy exchange, an easy way to say thank you to me if I've helped you at all, and an easy way to share some joy if this podcast has brought it to you. Moving on. Let the soft animal of your body love what it loves. This is a line from a poem that I love. It's my favorite poem of all time thus far in my life. It struck me so deeply when I read it. It is from Wild Geese by Mary Oliver. I have a theory that the girlies who read The Bell Jar in middle school by Sylvia Plath and who loved the darkness of Sylvia Plath grow up to become hopeful hearts, and they then fall into a love affair with Mary Oliver, who writes about hope and nature and the family of all things being interconnected. And I identify as one of those girls who followed that trope of darkness into light represented by these authors. This poem is really special, and I'm going to read it to kick off this episode, and then I'm going to read a poem that I wrote that was inspired by this poem, and we are going to start there. Wild Geese by Mary Oliver. You do not have to be good. You do not have to walk on your knees for 100 miles through the desert repenting. You only have to let the soft animal of your body love what it loves. Tell me about despair, yours, and I will tell you mine. Meanwhile, the world goes on. Meanwhile, the sun and clear pebble of the rain are moving across the landscapes, over the prairies and the deep trees, the mountains and the rivers. Meanwhile, the wild geese, high in the clean blue air, are heading for home again. Whoever you are, no matter how lonely, the world offers itself to your imagination, calls to you like wild geese, harsh and exciting, over and over, announcing your place in the family of all things. You do not have to be good. This resonates so deeply for me as someone who grew up in a household where I felt like I had to be good, and that being good meant that the world would not fall apart, that being good meant that I had control in some regard over the chaos that was happening around me. And I think many of us grow up and there's still this inner child in all of us that wants to be good, that wants to be validated, that wants to prove themselves to the world, and who abandons the inner fire in their heart that tells them to look at the world with magic in their eyes and remember what that wonder felt like, because we are so used to living for others, and we internalize this guilt and this sense of shame when we choose ourselves. And that is a big part of what this episode is going to be about, is what happens when you say yes to yourself, what happens when you uncover and discover what is beneath the surface of you, turning your attention inwards and letting yourself want what it wants, letting yourself love what you love, admitting it to yourself, releasing shame from your posture, letting it have no home in your body. I will now read a poem that I wrote called The Animal in Me. The animal in me sits by the stream on a clear, cold night and listens to the sky become still as the sun leaves for its trip on the other side of town. The animal in me belly laughs with dropped shoulders and loose posture and is content with everything as everything evolves into something new. The animal in me is unencumbered by the fear of perception, has no space for the near-ended doom of judgment, and loves what it loves as it joins in song with the family of things. Shout out Mary Oliver. The animal in me is shameless and guiltless, unapologetically too much. You guys tend to know me for having a lot of words, having maybe 4 pages to read you as I read you one of my essays, but this felt right. It felt short, it felt sweet, and it felt representative of releasing the shame. Along the same lines of Mary Oliver and that poem, we carry so much with us and we forget the magic. And as we forget the magic, our lives become lived for others. Our lives become lived for something that we never wanted them to be lived for. And we become deadened. Yet there's always this little voice, this magic, this good idea fairy, this sweet little pocket of love that wants to find us at all moments if we just simply release and allow it, and allow ourselves the privilege of experiencing it. In the last several months, I have been living in between places. In August of this year, I moved out of my apartment that I lived in for 3 years. It was very abrupt, and I wasn't expecting to, I wasn't planning to. It was something that kind of just happened. My boyfriend was in Los Angeles and he has a studio apartment in the city. So I was able to stay there for an unexpected 8 weeks, 2 months inside of his apartment by myself, living completely alone. And during that time, I trained myself to realize when I was clenching and when I was holding, and I noticed so profoundly this deep, deep, dark, angry voice inside of me that told me to get it together. And that told me that I needed to figure out my next step immediately, or else. And this or else was always this big catastrophic unraveling of the worst possible case scenario in a world where it would never happen, but it lived in my body. And that's the thing for so many of us: guilt, shame, judgment, fear, urgency lives in our body. And I spent those 2 months making a friend out of my body. I had previously this past year dealt with a lot of body image struggles, a lot of dysmorphia, a lot of feelings of being at war with my body, not feeling at home in my body. And I know now that that was representative of a desire to be grounded and an imbalance in my root, where I was rooted. Because last year I quit my job, took a leap of faith, and all year this year I was figuring out how to live a creative life and how to root myself into this new version of life. And so my body was holding on to a lot of unnecessary pain, unnecessary feelings, unnecessary weight as a result of that. And I felt myself so heavy, not even in a physical way, but in an emotional way. And as I was kind of reflecting and looking back at photos, I saw that it really is about the light in your eyes. It's never about really how you look. It's always about the way that you feel and how that shows through your physical expression. You can always tell when someone is glowing from the inside out versus when someone is, experiencing a darkness. And I really saw that in myself. And it wasn't until I got kind of thrown out of this sense of home that I was fighting so hard not to leave. I did not want to leave my apartment, but I knew when it happened that it was exactly what was meant to happen. And it was. When I left that apartment, I really was able to be present with myself and my body for the first time. I received 2 months of unencumbered time with myself, unintentional. It was not planned. And in that time, I went into this deep experiencing of my body in my physical form. And I realized how much pressure I put on myself. I realized how much heaviness and how much weight I was putting on myself to perform and to be this thing, and how often I was telling this story that I was trying, when really, if I took a step back and I looked at all that I had done, I actually was doing and I was being, but I wasn't giving myself any credit for that. And that was the end of season 3 of this podcast. So if you've been following along, you kind of know this journey. But during that time, I took a 2-month break from the podcast. I started to incubate season 4. I just let myself fully be. I didn't put pressure on myself to find my next step. I didn't put pressure on myself to figure out what was next. My boyfriend was really, really supportive in letting me know that this was my time, that there was nowhere I needed to be. There was nothing I needed to do. I didn't need to figure it out. He wasn't going to come home and kick me out of his space, even though that was my deep fear because of the chaotic environment that I grew up in, where I had to constantly root and then leave. That was the story that my body was telling. And I got to really tell myself a different story. And so I just started to really be so kind to myself in every single way. And it was only when I looked at myself in the mirror every day and celebrated who I was and all that I'd done, started to catch myself in these thought loops of urgency and anger and shame and guilt and this need to be perfect, and then replace all of those words with loving words of kindness. Because I was completely alone in this apartment, I got to just use my voice a lot too. So I would talk to myself all day long. I would talk to my inner child. I would tell her that everything was going to be okay. And every single time I had this critical, harsh voice of judgment, whether that be about the way that I looked or what I was doing, this voice of judgment that essentially told me that I was not enough. That was the entirety of this story, was a not enoughness and a needing to be more and strive for more and do more and more. As soon as I really got to know why that voice existed and talked to that part of me and replaced the way that it controlled the narrative with love, suddenly I dropped all of the literal actual weight that I was carrying that I didn't need. I dropped this weight from my shoulders. I was able to really find myself in this deep place, this deep state of alignment. And it was the true representation of letting the soft animal of my body love what it loves, releasing shame from my body. I was doing a lot of dancing and somatic shaking. I was using my voice every morning. I would do yoga. And as I would do yoga, I would just release from my body vocally. And I would be in child's pose, just going, like over and over and over again. And the place that I teach breathwork and meditation in the city actually trained us to kind of do this sense of vocal release. They call it vocal toning. And vocal toning is a really beautiful way to release emotion and stagnant energy from your body. It's basically just breathing really deep into your body, and then on the exhale, letting whatever sound wants to come out of you. And you can do it in different places of your body. For me, I tend to hold a lot of anxiety and urgency in my heart. So a lot of what I will do is vocal release on an ah, because that is representative of the heart space. If you guys want to know more about ways to release, I am so happy to create an entire episode on somatic shaking, vocal release, ways I've learned how to transmute and kind of work with the energy of my own body and understand what's stuck and stagnant. But the most important thing for me that I've realized is movement, moving my body freely, shamelessly, reclaiming movement in my body from a place of utter expression and not repression, because we can also move out of repression. And for a long time, this entire year, all the way up until I left my apartment, I was moving from a place of repression. I didn't know this. I wasn't fully conscious of it, but I was moving because I wanted to be smaller. I wanted to get this weight off of me. I wanted to let go. I wanted to basically force myself into this little box. So my movement, even if it felt good and I was sweating and I was releasing emotions, I was moving from a place of repression. It wasn't from an expressive place. When you move from an expressive place, it is without rules, it is without bounds, it is without the need to get anything out of it other than just expressing yourself and just allowing yourself to move. And my journey with becoming a friend to my body has been such a beautiful one this year. I know that I really became embodied throughout this experience of feeling like a stranger in my body, feeling at war in my body, and then having this beautiful opportunity to make a friend out of my body. And that's really what I used this beautiful time for. I was so kind to myself. I was taking the most beautiful care of myself. I was just truly asking myself, what sounds fun today? What can I do today to nurture my inner garden? And in that, I saw so many seeds bloom. I'll finish the story just so you kind of know where I am going and where I wound up. In the last few months after he came back from his travels, I've been living with him half the time in the city and half the time upstate, staying with some family. And it's been challenging in so many ways and also so clarifying in so many ways. And I am finally at the point where I know it's time for me to start a new chapter, to root myself into somewhere new. And so I am moving next week. It just feels so good to be able to start the year in a new place, in new ground, knowing that I've released so much and go forward into this new chapter. I am moving into a building like I've never lived in before. It has amenities. It has a beautiful skyline view of New York City that I cannot wait to record on. It has just a nice and clean and beautiful energy, and it's in a place in the city that I've never lived in before, and it's just really going to be a new chapter for me, and I'm really, really excited about it. So yay, full circle moment here. Saying yes to myself in this situation wasn't the most seamless option. It was another practice of letting the soft animal of my body love what it loves and want what it wants. I've been really asking myself this question in the last couple of months. What would I do if I wasn't afraid of upsetting anyone? What would I do if it was safe to do what I wanted to do? And that is a question that I think is really indicative and representative of letting the soft animal of our body love what it loves and shamelessly moving through this world in a way that allows us to be us. If I wasn't worried about upsetting anyone, what would I do? And that is the most loving choice that you can make for yourself and for others. A choice made shamelessly in the heart of your own heart is never a choice that you will regret. Safety is a prerequisite for shameless unapology of the self. Letting the soft animal of your body love what it loves and want what it wants requires that you have the space to listen to yourself. And that is what I realized in those 2 months when I was alone. I received this space to listen to myself. And I learned so deeply about my own needs for alignment. But there is nuance to it because safety on Maslow's hierarchy of needs is the first need for a reason. If your safety needs aren't met, if you are living in survival, if you are in a situation of trauma or even abuse, how could you ever actualize? How could you ever truly release self-expression and lean into the fullness of letting the soft animal of your body love what it loves? So while this episode is largely about allowing yourself to release that shame, I also want to add nuance to the fact that your environment being conducive to this can be a factor in it. And if you are in an environment that you cannot unravel yourself from, and you are learning about the unapologetic nature of your being, you are trying to live with love and really prioritize love, I have an episode for you. It will be linked down below. It's all about taking up space in spaces and places that have been traditionally hard for us to take up space in. Moving anyways, going anyways, allowing yourself to love anyways, to choose love. All in all, this year has really taught me about what it's like to fight against the current and what happens when we allow ourselves to flow. And this requires us to surrender our clenched hand of control, to stop worshiping control as a false god, to allow ourselves to really just be exactly as we are, unencumbered by the fear of perception, the fear of judgment, to zoom out and realize that we are in the middle of space on a floating rock and that we get to take this precious care of ourselves, that taking precious care of ourselves makes us stronger. And so if you are someone who is negotiating your relationship with the safety to be who you are, I want to invite you to really reflect on the question, what does it look like in this situation for me to take the best possible care of myself? And what does safety feel like in this situation? Because you might have this idea of safety, this idea of alignment, this pedestalized, idealized image of what it looks like to be completely happy and peaceful. But it always comes back to, in the now, dropping the shoulders, unclenching the jaw, and asking ourselves what it will take from us, what we need to give to ourselves to allow that loose flow to live within us, because that is where we can be open enough for love, for our blessings, to appreciate the little things of life. Julia Cameron, the author of The Artist's Way, says, "Treating myself like a precious object has made me strong." And that is, again, another through line of this sentiment of allowing. We think that we need to put ourselves in this tiny little box and set so many expectations for who we are and how we move. But really, it's always about the loosening and the allowing and the softening and the realizing that we are here to be. That's it. And from that place of being, so much doing can emerge. But if we are doing without the being, we are just getting lost. So what does it look like to take the best possible care of yourself in the situation that you are in now? Because sometimes we feel guilty and we feel shameful because we're not showing up for ourselves, and we know that. And that's really something that we have to look at, because if we are feeling that sense of disappointment with ourselves, there might be merit to that. We might have to sit and say, well, maybe I'm not showing up the best. And we carry around these feelings, this guilt, this shame in our bodies because we think that if we carry them around, then that's our price that we pay for the bad choice that we've made or for the mistake that we made. We punish ourselves. It's a form of self-punishment. Perpetuated shame and guilt is a form of self-abuse, and all it does is keep you in a state of self-pity. It actually doesn't allow you to act differently. It doesn't create change for the situation. It doesn't allow you to open yourself up to anything else or anything more. It just binds you. It holds you. It stops the flow of energy in your body. It stops the flow of energy in your life. It stops the flow from flowing and happening. And we don't often realize that we're carrying this around, but a good practice for this is to just, if you have a yoga mat, lay in Shavasana, which is corpse pose, where your entire body is just completely sunk into the floor. Put on some music, some soft music, and really focus on relaxing and releasing every single muscle in your body, starting with your toes. And you have to really obviously remain mindful throughout this practice. Your mind is going to wander, but noticing in this like 5-minute, 10-minute window of releasing every muscle in your body where you start to clench again. And usually where we're clenching and where we're holding is where we're holding a lot of anxiety and pressure and shame. And once we've identified areas of tension in our body that keep tensing, we can then work with those areas in our body. We can massage the areas in our body. We can talk to them, because you can know something. You can know you're carrying guilt. You can know you're carrying shame. But if it's living in your body, it becomes a different conversation. It's no longer a conversation intellectually or verbally. It's a conversation with your body. And again, I am more than happy to make an entire episode on conversations with the body, how to release through the body. I've learned so much about somatics and vocal release and release that comes from the all-encompassing nature of us as a whole being and not just the mind. So if there's interest for that, please leave a comment and let me know. I'm actually probably going to do it anyways, because it sounds like something that is needed now that I am talking about it and I actually have a lot of experience with it. Overall, this releasing of shame and guilt is a product of asking yourself where you can take the best care and noticing if there is part of you that feels like you can't or you shouldn't or that's not allowed for whatever reason and in whatever way, then exploring that. Because, my darling, you do not have to be good. You do not have to crawl on your knees for hundreds of miles repenting. Let the soft animal of your body love what it loves. You are part of an intricate web of all things. You are able and powerful enough to witness the magic in all moments. You are the magic. You are the one who witnesses it, who sees it, who knows it. And there's so much magic inside of you asking to be released underneath the shame and the guilt and the fear of judgment that at any point you can just let go. Truly learning how to release these lived experiences from our body begins with one choice in this moment and then another choice in the next. And we have to keep making that choice. We have to keep allowing ourselves the space to notice when that inner critic, that loud voice of judgment, begins to get in the way, and take a step back and train another voice, love another voice, a voice of kindness and a voice of softness, a voice of beingness. And from that place, we can then ask ourselves, what would I do if it didn't have to be perfect? What would I do if it didn't have to be perfect? We get to choose. We get to create every single day of our lives. We have this beautiful thing called free will that enables us and allows us to program our avatars with thoughts and beliefs and reprogram them with thoughts and beliefs and to dress them up and to take them places. And it's such a gift. And I think that many of us forget. And so much of this is, again, this internalized sense of shame of needing to be something or do something or not allowing ourselves to have fun. And it reminds me that there's so much that we've told ourselves no to. There's so much that we've told ourselves that we can't do because we're not good at doing it, or because who do we think we are to do it, or because this or because that. And for me, one of these things has always been music. You guys have probably seen in the background of many of my videos guitars, and this is because I used to play guitar. I still do play guitar. I play guitar, and I used to write songs, and I actually wrote a song this morning, so I do write songs. And it's something that I've been in the closet about for a very long time. I started to come out of the closet a couple of years ago and really pursue music and really start making and creating right around the time that I started this podcast, actually. And then I met my boyfriend, and my boyfriend is a professional musician, which you think, oh, that would give me all of the license in the world to learn from someone great. But really, it just made me go, oh, who the fuck do I think I am to want to pursue music at all in any regard, even for fun. I remember the first time I sang and played guitar around him, he was like, it's good. It was like this feeling of I'm the only one who cares if this is good or not. And to him, he's just an artist who does this all the time. And it's okay if it's not perfect, because when you try to make it perfect, you get in the way of it becoming anything at all. And I've learned that so much through him and through watching him come into his own. I've learned so much about artistry from him, and he's so brave in so many ways. I've not really talked a lot about my boyfriend on this podcast. I tend to like keep that private and keep that for me, but he's actually going to come on the show. I don't know when, but very soon. We talk about it often. I also have to give him credit as well, because he mixes the audio for my episodes, and he is a very wise person, and a lot of the things that he says end up in these episodes. So my idea for our episode together is to just kind of go through all of the ways he's inspired figuring shit out and pick his brain around all of those things. But maybe it'll be about something else, who knows. But coming full circle, I was singing, playing guitar when I was like 8, 9 years old, writing songs. And it was always a love of mine, a deep love of mine. And it was always something I did when no one was around. And to this day, it still is something I do when no one is around. But this morning I picked up the guitar, which was sitting on a couch, and I found myself singing and playing. And I wrote this song, and it was all about how I have this love for this instrument and love for this craft, and I've abandoned it because to me, I don't want to associate myself with artistry in that regard, because if it's not good, then what's the point? Or it's not worth it. Or if you tell people like I sing and play guitar, they're going to want to hear it, and I don't want anyone to hear me. And it's a very like young, shameful feeling. And I really started exploring it today because I wrote this song, and it was really special. And it was basically just this reacquaintanceship with the spirit of music. It was me talking to the spirit of music, and it's called Hi, It's Me Again. And it's about all of the times that I have picked up the guitar only to sing and play alone and then feel shame because I didn't think it was good, and then let it sit in the corner of my room collecting dust. And how often as well I watch the person that I love express himself through this medium, and I sit and I praise, and I, don't look at myself at all in this way as an artist in that regard. I look at him as an artist, like it's, he knows how to do it for real. Like he's a professional. Oh, who am I? I don't know. And it's just such an interesting realization. And it's something that I've known for a long time that I'll always come back to, that part of me will always need to explore this because this has been something in my blood and in my bones for so long. I come from a musical family, and it's kind of just been something I've been ignoring. Like the guitar has been collecting dust. I've actually given my guitar to my boyfriend to use because I'm like, I don't really use it. You should use it. And the only reason I really stopped using it was because I started to feel this shame inside of me of, oh, I'm not good. This is something I share with you because in 2026, I am going to really heal this relationship that I have with this part of me, this artistic part of me that wants to create and express through the medium of music. Maybe one day you guys will hear some of the things that I've written. Who knows? Not entirely impossible. And I know it's something that my inner child loved and that I love. And I have this voice that I use for this podcast, but that wants to be used in different ways. And who am I to not let it? Who am I to get in the way? So that is what would I do if I didn't have to be good, if I knew I was safe to do it? it. And if I wasn't afraid of upsetting anyone, that is my answer to the question, what does it mean to take the best possible care of myself? It means to allow myself to flow through what wants to come through me and not hold on so tightly to what I think it should be or could be or has to be, but allow it to emerge. All of the beautiful, magical things in my life that have ever come to be have been from that allowing. And it's what this episode is about. Thank you guys so much for listening to my tales and my stories. Please comment actually and let me know what you are going to let the soft animal of your body love in the week to come. What is something that you are going to try or do because you want to and because it is a representation of you taking the best possible care of yourself, not because it has to be good. Also, if you've been interested in the Costa Rica retreat, there is an extension to book until the end of January. So you still have time to book and there are still spots left. They are going really quickly. I do have a bit of a discount code. If you want to DM me over Instagram, you're interested in using it, feel free to let me know that you are interested in the Costa Rica retreat. I am so excited. This retreat is actually going to be a representation of women in the jungle letting the soft animal of their body love what it loves. This is going to be all about creativity and our child's healing, connecting to this deep part of us that will lead us forward and truly creating magic with one another, with the presence, with the adventure. I'm so excited. This trip has been imbued with so much love, and we just had our first workshop last week where some of us met each other. People are still joining, so no worries if you want to join and be part of those. There's a community of all of these women who are all together, and I'm so excited to just continue fostering it. So if you want to join, there are still spots left, and if you're interested in a discount, you can DM me. Thank you so much for listening, for loving the show. I love you, and I will see you next week in 2026. I'll see you next year. Ha ha ha. Okay, I'm gonna go now. But first, remember, if you spend your whole life trying to get your act together, you don't have a life, you have an act. So go and live your fucking life. I love you so much. I'll see you next year.
You got to look for the redeeming feature. You got to look for things to appreciate. You got to find a reason to make it okay where you are. No, I've got to strive and struggle and try. That's what I've been taught. Growth and expansion is my quest. No, that's inevitable. Whether it comes easy or hard is the question.
The horrible truth is that it's an inside job. That if you're going to get that love and that respect that you've just that connect, that union starts inside.
To every experience of growth, there is an equal and an opposite. And that equal and an opposite is what drives you to that light. So you have to start inwards. You have to start first within yourself.